Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of United Talks podcast. Now, this is one we can actually talk about. This is one we can actually, have conversations about and everything. And this is, an interesting one. So this one is going to be a bit more in depth with regards to the how, Man United are linked with this manager and everything in between. But yeah, so basically, as of maybe the 17th February, so like yesterday, it's the time of recording, there has been recent claims that Manchester United approached obviously Manchester United are interested in another manager in the person of Julian Nagelsmann. As of 16th of February, rather, not 17th, Man United have reportedly made initial contact with Julian Nagelsmann regarding the permanent managerial vacancy. While Nagelsmann is said to be open to the move and is interested in return to the football club, he remains committed to leading Germany, like the German national team, through the 2026 FIFA World Cup this summer. Now, the current situation of Man United is, we all know what the current situation is. Michael Carrick is the manager of Manchester United, interim manager, and he was appointed as interim in January 2026, following the sacking of Ruben Amorim. And Carrick has also impressed during the short tenure, winning the Premier League Manager of the Month award for January 2026 after leading the team to a series of single victories. That was 2 victories against Manchester City and against Arsenal. Now, the interim success, he has led a resurgence. Michael Carrick has led a resurgence at Old Trafford, including notable wins against Man City on Arsenal, as I said, and against wins against Fulham and Tottenham. And then he drew against West Ham, so he's still unbeaten. United unbeaten in 9. But with regards to permanent search, despite Carrick's form, United's hierarchy, led by Director of Recruitment Christopher Vivell, is actively vetting elite permanent candidates for a summer appointment. Vivell's connection is reportedly that he's pushing for Nagelsmann, having worked closely with him previously at RB Leipzig. So that's why this rumor is coming out. Maybe that's why Nagelsmann's name is on the list. Now, Nagelsmann's availability and status. While United have established, contact, Nagelsmann's immediate availability is restricted by his international duties. With contract, Nagelsmann is currently under contract with the German FA until 2028. So Man United might have to buy him out of that contract, right? With the break clause, reports indicate that his contract contains a break clause that can be triggered following the 2026 World Cup, depending on Germany's performance, right? But the timeline for this approach is the fact that a move to Old Trafford is most likely to occur after the 2026 World Cup concludes in July, allowing United to appoint a permanent manager ahead of 26-27 season. But what does that mean? Now, as of 2026, February 2026, this is the rumored list of managers. Then before we go into his tactical, Julian Nagelsmann's style of play and basically his preferred formations, as well as how it fits Man United. Now, managerial candidates. Basically, Julian Nagelsmann, current Germany manager, leading candidate backed by Christopher Vivell. Michael Carrick, Man United interim, currently in charge, strong internal candidate due to recent form. Xabi Alonso, former Real Madrid and Bayern Leverkusen, frequently linked with a top elite alternative. Diego Simeone, Atletico Madrid, recently linked following Amorim's departure, especially coming from the mouth of legends or ex-players like Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt, as well as Gary Neville. And I'm not going to mention his name, forget about it. Then Xavi, unattached, reportedly held initial talks with United officials. Now, United insiders suggest that the club is performing extensive due diligence to avoid rushing the appointment, using Carrick's interim period to evaluate long-term options. And we're going maybe in another video talk about Carrick's suitability for the managerial role. So this is a third episode in the series of the manager search. The first one was with regards to Luis Enrique. The second one was regards to Jurgen Klopp being approached. And the third one is in regards to Julian Nagelsmann. We'll talk about Michael Carrick. We've talked about Michael Carrick in the past, what he brings to the club and everything, but we'll talk about him being a managerial candidate. But the next thing we're going to talk about with regards to Julian Nagelsmann, or Julian Nagelsmann, I'll call him, they say Julian Nagelsmann. Yeah. Julian Nagelsmann is a progressive, so this is more like how he plays. Progressive, highly analytical manager, currently serving as head coach of Germany national team through the 26th FIFA World Cup. His tactical philosophy is defined by extreme flexibility, intense verticality in possession, and aggressive counter-pressing. Now, the core principles of his style of play is famously with regards to his views as to coaching as 30% tactics and 70% social competence. So Nagelsmann famously views coaching as 30% tactics and 70% social competence, believing elite strategies only succeed if the player's psychological condition is optimized. Now, with regards to his core principles or core tactical principles, he focuses on verticality in possession. Unlike, the traditional position-heavy coaches who cycle the ball sideways, Nagelsmann's teams prioritize immediate forward play. Every player is instructed to look for a vertical pass first. If unavailable, then the ball is moved quickly to create a new angle for a forward play, or forward entry. But the aim is a vertical pass. That is basically what Nagelsmann thinks about, or that's basically what Nagelsmann usually coaches his team to play. The second one is the aggressive gegenpressing. We've had a gegenpress manager in what's this guy's name again? Ralf Rangnick. Also came from the Red Bull football culture and principles. And obviously his defensive identity is rooted in the Stuttgarter Schule, that is a German word, the Stuttgarter Schule, influenced by Ralf Rangnick and Jurgen Klopp. So you see that there's a link, with the Jurgen Klopp links, and then obviously you have the Ralf Rangnick links as well, obviously from Red Bull football. He came out from Red Bull football as well before he became the Bayern manager. Jurgen Klopp came out from Red Bull football. Ralf Rangnick came out from Red Bull football as well. Now, the idea of his aggressive gegenpressing is the fact that upon losing the ball, his teams immediately attempt to win it back in the opponent's half rather than dropping into a defensive block. Now, with his positional fluidity and relative width. Now, the last time we saw gegenpress under Ralf Rangnick, it was this 4-2-2-2 formation, and it happened in the game against Crystal Palace under Ralf Rangnick. We won that game, I think 2-1 or something, but we only saw that gegenpress once, and we only saw that formation once, and we only saw it for the first 45 minutes of the game, if you remember correctly, under Ralf Rangnick. But with regards to how Julian Nagelsmann plays, positional fluidity and relative width, he often instructs his wide players to move central into the central half spaces, and relative width rather than basically sticking to the touchline. So his wide players must drop in deep into the half space rather than hugging the touchline. I mean, you have wide players like that, Ahmad, Mbomo. These are players that can actually do that. This actually creates central overloads, often using 3 number 10s to overwhelm the opposition's midfield. Now, the technological innovation is that he is a pioneer in using technology such as installing giant video walls on training pitches for real-time feedback and using drones to film tactical sessions. So basically just to try to get an overview of how the team is playing, to get all angles of how everybody's aligning to the team and everything in between. So yeah, Julian Nagelsmann is one I can kind of get behind. He's a young manager. He's an upcoming manager. He's basically just like that, your kind of manager that can actually do some wonders. Basically, young, up and coming, progressive. He's coaching the national team at his age already, and all of that. So just having to look at him, with his profile and all of that. When he coached at Hoffenheim, he had 55 wins, 43 draws, and 38 losses. So it was pretty much there, 1.5 points per game, with 40% win percentage. He's 38, so he's pretty young. He's played 29 matches for Germany, and he has 17 wins, 6 draws, and 6 losses. So he's barely lost so many games. At Red Bull, he had basically 54 wins, 22 draws, and 19 losses from 2019 to 2021. June 2019 to June 2021, 2 years at Red Bull. He basically had 57% win percentage. He had 1.5 points in the previous team, that's Hoffenheim. At Red Bull, he had 1.9 points per game. At Hoffenheim, he just did 3 years, February 2016 to June 2019, and then went to Red Bull Leipzig, RB Leipzig, and did 2019-2021 June. Now, in June 2021, he joined Bayern Munich. He played 60 games, drew 14, and lost 10. So, yeah, it's Bayern Munich. You should expect that, he should be able to deliver with that team. But he had 2.3 points per game. So, that's some wins under his belt. And then with Germany, he has 59% win rate. At Bayern Munich, he had 71% win rate. But in Germany, he had basically a 17% win rate. 59% win rate with 17 wins, 6 draws, and 6 losses, as I said. So, with regards to trophies, he's basically won Bundesliga. He won Bundesliga in 21-22, and he won the Super Cup twice in 21-22 and 22-23. The German Super Cup. So then with Hoffenheim, he started as an under-19 manager at Hoffenheim. He won the under-19 Bundesliga with them and all of that. So when you look at his career, it's pretty decent with loads of experience. He's been coaching for the better part of the last probably 10 years. So he has a wealth of experience. He started at the age of 28. He's coached for 10 years. He's 26. So he has kind of experience. Well, like I said, for a person who has coached for 10 years, he has a wealth of experience that we can actually back. And Julian Nagelsmann seems like the ideal kind of candidate that we can actually go for. We could go deep into like what he does and everything, but like we've talked about it, we've talked about like what we can get from him. With regards to his preferred formation, Julian Nagelsmann is known for switching systems frequently, even mid-match, based on the opponent's behavior within the team. He's adaptable, he adjusts. He plays a 4-2-3-1 base system, which is currently what Man United plays, but with Michael Carrick, it's more of an asymmetric 3-2-5. But with Julian Nagelsmann, his base system on paper, basically that's what base system means, is a 4-2-3-1. And it is the most frequently used starting formation for Germany, utilizing a double pivot with Joshua Kimmich or Robert Andrich as one of the two players, or the two players that fit in that double pivot, and with fluid attacking midfielders. So he basically uses 3-10s, like I said earlier. And in this one, you can actually see he does use 3-10s. Well, if Man United had to go for him, it's not one that I would not want to back. Like, he basically is a good manager. But then, where does that leave our wingers if he's using 3-10s? Does that convert them to 10s and we don't necessarily need to sign wingers? And then that means we need to make good use of the number 10s we have. But that doesn't change the fact that we at least need 2 or 3 midfielders to fit in that 2 double pivot role. Right now, the other formations that we have observed that we could actually see and say based on experience and everything is the 3-2-4-1. I told you about the 3-2-5 formation that Michael Carrick plays. So with Michael Carrick playing this formation and Julian Nagelsmann coming in, where does that leave us? That makes it even easier for these guys to transition, especially the new players to transition. He plays a 3-2-4-1 or a 3-1-5-1 in possession. His teams often transition into a back three. back three, allowing fullbacks to push high or move inside to join a packed midfield. So it's kind of like, it sounds more like even the Michael Carrick situation where you have an asymmetric formation where you have one player who basically does the fly fullback role, Luke Shaw most likely, and sometimes Dalot on the other side, and all of that. Now, to another crux of the matter where we've seen this formation, this third formation that I've talked about once at Man United and a couple times at Liverpool this season where it actually failed woefully, and that is the 4-2-2-2. He uses this narrow formation at RB Leipzig and Bayern Munich to cluster players in central lanes, facilitating quick, intricate combinations through the middle. So it's one of those things where you have to think about the fact that, yeah, he's one I can back. He's like a Michael Carrick of this day that I can actually back. He has trophies under his belt. He's won something, and he has the winning mentality. And yeah, he's a young manager. He doesn't have Premier League experience, no doubt, but he's one that we can take a punt at, basically. Right. Now, but Man United is a different beast, though. Anyway, with 2026 and the strategy and the current status, ahead of 2026 World Cup, Nagelsmann has shifted towards a more collaborative leadership style, customizing tactics to align with how players behave at their respective clubs to actually ensure that they adapt quickly to the national team environment. But the national team is totally different from club, right? Now, with regards to that, his squad harmony, he has emphasized maintaining a harmonious group, indicating that he will not make drastic changes to the core squad that recently reached the 2025 UEFA Nations League final. Also, with regards to the goalkeeper crisis of the German squad, as of this month, February 2026, he is managing an unprecedented goalkeeper crisis due to Manuel Neuer's retirement and a long-term injury to Marc-Andre ter Stegen, who basically came back and I think he has moved to another club. But it also leaves Oliver Baumann as the current primary option for Germany. But that's not the issue, because for Man United, we are sorted with goalkeeping department. We can't even bring Radek Vitek, and we sell Altabayender and Onana, and we still be good. There's even Demopmi as well in there. So we have a good goalkeeping squad, right? Now, as of this month as well, basically how Julian Nagelsmann fits into Man United, because we can talk about how he plays and everything, but how does this fit into this Man United squad? Julian Nagelsmann is the leading candidate, obviously, to become permanent manager at Manchester United following the 2026 World Cup. His tactical philosophy is extreme verticality and fluid overloads, like I said, which aligns with the squad's current recruitment under recruitment director Christopher Vivell. Though his complex instructions could pose a cognitive overload and risk for a team, right? And risk for a team that has struggled for consistency. You have to think about it from perspective of, we recently had a manager in Ruben Amorim who had a lot to say with regards to cognitive overloads and passing instructions on the field of play and playing his way and sticking to his guns and all of that. And that could be an issue for this squad. But then, obviously, the squad is not going to be aging with players like Bruno potentially leaving, Casemiro potentially leaving as well, and the guys that are over 30 also potentially leaving us with a young, healthy squad who are kind of malleable, right? But the current squad is currently led by, obviously, Michael Carrick, and has been revamped with, profiles that suit Nagelsmann's high-intensity style. That's pretty much how we're going to be talking about the tactical fit for this team. With regards to central overloads, Nagelsmann's signature 3-10s system would ideally fit, if Bruno is around, Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount and Kobe Mainu, or potentially Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount, no. So let's say there's no Bruno Fernandes. We'll have 3-10s in Matheus Cunha, Brian Bumo, and most likely Ahmad. That leaves us still light in the midfield. Then if you add, maybe if you take Ahmad out and you bring a proper 10 in Mason Mount, then you have Cunha, Bumo, and Mount as the 10. Yeah. Even Kobe Mino as well is going to struggle in this. Yeah, Kobe Mino is going to struggle in this one. I'm not going to lie. He's not going to have that speed to do those gegen pressing and pressing high and recovery in that, because the truth is that gegen press has a potential to cause a lot of injuries in the squad and in the team, right? Especially in the advanced roles with fluid roles to overwhelm opposition midfields. Yeah, we struggled to do that, especially in the last couple games, right? Now, with regards to the vertical attackers in 2026, the forward line featuring Benjamin Šeško, Brian Bomo, and potentially Mateusz Cunha. And if most likely if we don't sell Joshua Zirkzee, then he gets included in that. It provides a physical presence and the attack and the back to go hold up play Nagelsmann requires, especially for Šeško and Cunha, to actually release, onrushing midfielders in the 10s, right? Then with defensive aggression, Nagelsmann's gegenpressing requires mobile centre backs, and the partnership of Leny Yoro and Lisandro Martinez or De Ligt and Martinez fits kind of like his preference for high defensive line and stopper cover combination. So he uses in the defense something like a stopper cover, someone who's going to be the person who stops the attack and everything in between. Now, the potential challenges, obviously, there's no how we're trying to fit these players into Nagelsmann's style of play, but obviously there's going to be shortcomings, there's going to be like potential challenges, and that is with regards to the tactical flexibility of the team. Critics also note that Nagelsmann often makes too many mid-game shifts, which previously confused players at Bayern. Following the Ruben Amorim era, where players reportedly suffered from cognitive overload, there's a risk that Nagelsmann's micro-detailed instructions could actually lead to further instability in the team, right? But with the recruitment needs, while the attack is strong, analysts also suggest that the defense still needs work to handle Nagelsmann's risky double pivot system, which actually lacks a traditional designated holding player, of which obviously we could actually look at it from perspective of us making our efforts to get a designated holding player. Right now, with the managerial context, obviously we all know that Michael Carrick is there. Nagelsmann is interested in United because the news, which I'm going to read to you shortly, states that he's interested in United after the 2026 World Cup. The key advocate is Christopher Vivell because obviously he's the director of recruitment, but he also worked with Nagelsmann at RB Leipzig, so he's kind of bringing his guys in, right? The main rivals are Roberto De Zerbi, who most people are saying should not be in the club. I think if I see any proper news about Roberto De Zerbi, I'll bring you an analysis like this. And then also Luis Enrique, which we've already talked about. And then the potential of Michael Carrick if made permanent as well. Those are the rivals. We also have news that Michael Carrick could be front runner or put his name in the hat for that role. Now, United's hierarchy, particularly Ineos and Vivell, believe that Nagelsmann could be the next German manager to dominate the Premier League in the vein of Jurgen Klopp. Maybe that's why they approach Jurgen Klopp. We never know. However, a formal move is unlikely until the conclusion of the 2026 World Cup campaign in the summer. Now, the truth is, we could explore deeper as to how Nagelsmann's tactics could actually fit the changes at United, right? And with regards to that, the management and timing basically is very key in that. Before we kind of wrap things up here, Julian Nagelsmann is the primary candidate, obviously. While he remains fully committed to Germany through the tournament in North America, reports suggest that he's very interested in the role and views it as part of a clear career plan. Now, the management and timing, the potential appointment is heavily driven by Christopher Vivell, as I said, and Michael Carrick is there. Negotiations are on the way. Basically, it has been reported that initial contact has been made with Nagelsmann's representatives to discuss post-World Cup move. Compensation is also on the cards because Nagelsmann's contract with DFB was recently extended through Euro 2028. United would likely need to pay a significant amount of compensation to secure his signature this summer. The squad dynamics and challenges. While the club hierarchy believes that Nagelsmann could emulate Jurgen Klopp's Premier League success to move faces internal hurdles. The move actually faces internal hurdles. Player backing for Carrick. High-profile players like Bruno Fernandes have expressed strong support for Michael Carrick to remain in the role permanently following a string of impressive results, including the win against Manchester City and Arsenal. But the alternative targets, if a deal for Nagelsmann is not reached, the club is also monitoring Xabi Alonso, who is another person I might not be able to, I might be tempted to also back, right? Although he's currently, settled. Well, he's currently without a job after his Real Madrid stint. Other candidates such as Roberto De Zerbi and Zinedine Zidane are under consideration, which I think is not ideal. But if we're going to look at what Football 365 is saying with regards to the news about Julian Nagelsmann, former Bayern manager is interested in Man United job with Red Devils chief, a big fan. That's Christopher Vivell, right? Germany boss Julian Nagelsmann is reportedly interested in becoming Manchester United manager after the summer World Cup. Nagelsmann has experience managing top European clubs, having replaced Hansi Flick at Bayern Munich ahead of 21-22 season. After winning Bundesliga in his first season, Nagelsmann was sacked during the 22-23 season, and a World Cup later, and would later be succeeded by Flick again, this time as head coach of the German national team. Now, with regards to Nagelsmann as a whole, he's the youngest coach in European football finals at 36 years old, in a European Championship final at 36 years old, 36 and 327 days. He lasted 20 months at Bayern Munich as Bayern boss, losing his job despite a 71.4% win rate, which we talked about earlier. Bayern paid a world record managerial compensation fee to Leipzig for Nagelsmann at £21.7 million. Now, the 38-year-old is one of the highest rated young coaches in Europe after a strong start as Germany boss extended his contract through to the 26 World Cup. Last January, Nagelsmann agreed to stay on beyond the World Cup to lead Germany into the next European Championship, but Manchester United becoming available could actually change things around, could actually change his plans. Manchester United are currently assessing their long-term managerial options following the sacking of Ruben Amorim, with several European coaches linked with the Old Trafford job in recent weeks. Nagelsmann is also among the managers being considered, with Michael Carrick in place for the interim manager role until the summer. Now, Julian Nagelsmann being interested in the job, according to Football Insider, if Nagelsmann decides to return to club management, he'll be interested in taking a job at Old Trafford. Nagelsmann's current priority is leading Germany to the World Cup, and he reportedly views the United job as an attractive proposition for the future. The website also reported on Sunday that United Director of Recruitment Christopher Vivell is pushing for the appointment of the German, right? Transfer journalist Pete O'Rourke explained that they don't want to rush anything, so the interim manager will allow them time to look for candidates. There are a number of people United are looking at for this job. He says, I know Christopher Vivell is a big fan of Julian Nagelsmann as well. He would potentially become available after the World Cup when he leads Germany over in the United States, and is another name high on the list. But for now, they are going to take their time and try to find the best man to get United back on track, competing for honors and finding consistency. It is now claimed that due diligence is underway as the United hierarchy assesses their long-term options following the appointment of former Red Devils captain Michael Carrick. So it's pretty interesting. What do you guys think about this Nagelsmann situation? Yeah, we'll have to go deeper in this one. Have to go do a deep dive, so we can actually get a sense of why Man United will be going for him, and what this potentially means for Man United, and what this actually could mean going forward, especially in the long term. Now, this report further goes on to say that there's one issue with Nagelsmann. However, his contract with Germany as Germany head coach runs for another 2.5 years. As a result, the Premier League giants would be forced to pay a significant amount of compensation to appoint him in the summer. That's another money going for the third consecutive coach. You've paid off Erik ten Hag to sack him. You paid Sporting to get Ruben Amorim and his 5 coaches. and you paid him off again to sack him, and now you're just about to pay another German manager, or another manager, or pay pay out his contract, or buy out his contract to get him to Man United. Germany's performance in the World Cup will be very crucial too. If they underperform, German decision makers could part ways with Nagelsmann and pursue a different manager ahead of the Euro 2028 qualifying campaign. Now, the question will now become, what type of manager does Manchester United need, or what type of manager do Manchester United need? And then, obviously, if you look at, the way things could be, many Man United fans, if they're backing Julian Nagelsmann, will want Nagelsmann sacked. We want Nagelsmann sacked by Germany, so we don't have to pay. And we want Germany not to do well, so that we don't have to pay so much, or they might have to part ways with the team and he'll be free. Now, this actually puts a lot of pressure as well. United, who sit fourth in the Premier League, either need an elite proven manager, that's based on what Man United need, or must follow the Arsenal route and appoint a young coach with an elite potential. Nagelsmann is a young coach. Elite potential is out of the way because he's already proven it as a winner, right? Then, if you now look at it from another perspective, a large portion of Arsenal supporters wanted Arteta sacked for a prolonged period, but he's turned things around after being afforded time by the club's hierarchy. We've said we wanted to follow the Arsenal way, but we have not done that because Nagelsmann will not succeed at Man United if we don't back him. That's an absolute fact here. Nagelsmann will not succeed at Man United if we don't back him. Anyway, I'm going to run a poll on the community about who should be the next Man United manager based on all of the players, all the managers on the list, and then we'll just, talk about it. Basically, based on these three that I've done, I think. Three? Yeah. Anyway, now, it is unclear what the figure could be for United, right? Who the figure could be for United. Perhaps it is someone currently working as an assistant coach under an elite manager, or someone from a similar school of thought to Arteta, such as Cesc Fabregas, which we've also heard about too as well. However, after Sergio Ratcliffe and company chose Amorim as Erik ten Hag's successor, it feels more likely that a more experienced manager with Champions League pedigree will be appointed. Now, this is where Tuchel emerges as the obvious option. But then, Tuchel has signed a contract, an extension, with England. The big issue is that Ratcliffe held talks with Tuchel before handing Ten Hag a new contract 2024. Now, Tuchel is in a similar situation as Nagelsmann as he prepares to lead England to the World Cup. But then, he has signed an extension. Now, United are expected to finalize their shortlist closer to the end of the season to actually kind of make things really clear for everybody to kind of understand what is actually going on. So, what do you guys think? Who should be Man United manager? Julian Nagelsmann, Luis Enrique? We talked about Xabi Alonso as well, but we haven't done like full detail into Xabi Alonso. We talked about Michael Carrick. We talked about Luis Enrique. We talked about Julian Nagelsmann. We talked about Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp is out of the way. That's not going to happen. But this guy seems like a genuine candidate, this Julian Nagelsmann guy. But we're going to be observing and we're going to let you know as things pan out. But yeah, that's pretty much my take from all of this. Right? I had to read the publication, and I did, a bit of a deep dive into like the kind of manager he is. So let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. Who do you think should be Man United manager? Julian Nagelsmann, Michael Carrick, Xabi Alonso, Luis Enrique, Roberto De Zerbi, Oliver Glasner. These are names that are just popping off. Now, we will do a more, deep dive, a more deeper dive into these managers, especially if we get one. That will make me even talk about what he brings in details, just as I did today. But let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. We'll continue to break down things like this, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you haven't already, please do like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything as relates to Manchester United. We'll continue to, give you as much as we can, and this is kind of like the third video in the series of the manager search. So, see you on the next one. Take care, goodbye, and God bless.